Welcome to the Psychology World podcast with me, Connor Whiteley, psychology student and international best-selling psychology author of over 30 psychology books, bringing you the latest psychology news, fascinating psychology topics and more each week. If you want to learn more, then please check out connorwhiteley.net/books. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the YouTube video or follow on your favourite podcast app. And here's the show. Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 287 of the Psychology World podcast with me, Connor Whiteley. And today's episode is on how to make and maintain friends as adults. And it is Tuesday, the 10th of September 2024 as I record this. So today's episode is a very timely one, because the week this podcast episode comes out, it is Freshers Week here in the UK, and basically tens of millions of students all over the Northern Hemisphere will be returning or going to university for the first time ever, which I mean is quite exciting when you think about it. Now, university represents a lot of brilliant new changes because you're going to go into higher education, you're going to work on your degree, you're going to study the subject you love, you're going to make friends, you're going to make romantic attachments, etc., etc. But I will be the first to admit that making friends is extremely scary, very difficult, and it cannot be fun at times. But this is a critical part of being an adult. Because as I talk about in today's podcast episode, making friends and making social relationships does have a lot of good mental health benefits, and it is actually flat out critical to our overall well-being. But it doesn't make it easy. So in this podcast episode, I'm going to be talking to you about how can you make friends as an adult. Yes, this is very much focused on university students because that's what I am. That's something I'm focusing on this year. But this can basically apply to any adults. So this is a brilliant episode. You're going to absolutely love it. So you got that to look forward to in the content part of today's episode. So moving on to the psychology news section, I will admit that because my mental health is still very fluctuating constantly, and I basically only have 2 days to record the podcast episode that has not come out yet, which should have come out yesterday. I also need to record this podcast episode and get this edited and basically sort it out completely before I go up to the Midlands on a Thursday night. Plus, I have outreach work, so basically, my time is extremely limited. Therefore, because I still want to give you a psychology news article, I'm only going to do one instead of the normal 3. Apologies, but this one's a little fun. Is being unique going out of style? Oh yeah, plus I should also mention, we're reading from the British Psychological Society Research Digest. Many of us long to stand out from the crowd. Achieving this sometimes competes with a different goal though, to belong. Striking that balance can be tricky as we seek both acceptance and to express our individuality. Some research has even suggested that with social anxiety rising, we're experiencing an uptick in the need to belong rather than stand out. Developments in how we interact with one another over the last few decades, primarily in the space of social media, may also have moderated the way we seek to express ourselves. Writing in Collaborative Psychology, William Chopping and team present findings of an investigation which suggests our desire for uniqueness has significantly decreased since the year 2000. Okay, now one of the reasons why I say this one's quite interesting and a little fun is because this does actually go against some rules I say in air quotes, of social psychology. Because yes, the need to belong theory, and I cannot pronounce the 2 names that begin with B that actually came up with the theory, but I reference it quite a lot in my work. That theory is absolutely critical. I don't think it's a theory. I think it's truth, to be fair, simply because humans do have a need to belong. We do want to maintain social bonds, and we are very resistant to actually break those social bonds because we don't want to be lonely, even when those social bonds are extremely bad for us. So I completely understand, and I think that's a very powerful force because we do want to belong. For example, one of my friends, they regularly say that they just want to fit in with the groups and they're happy just to be around, and they sort of reject the idea of individual expression to some extent, though, which is something me and my best friend, we are trying to wiggle out of them, and we do want them to express themselves as an individual instead of just being happy what the individual wants, or instead of what the group wants, sorry. So that's quite interesting. But then, the idea that individual uniqueness, that's another core principle of a social psychology, because being an individual, being unique, having people impressed with us because we are unique in ourselves, that's a very powerful force, and that helps our self-esteem, our mental health, and that makes us feel good, which is a critical area within social psychology. But as someone who specializes in mental health, having good self-esteem and feeling good about ourselves is beyond a critical, especially as a protective factors against conditions like the oppression. So the idea that we're starting to seek getting rid of individual egg expression is definitely some sort of food for thought, because if we do get rid of that, then I think there's a risk then we will become a bit submissive to a group leader, which does represent its own problems. Another cause for concern could also be that we simply stop developing our own interests. We stop developing what we want to do with our lives, and we simply follow the group. So that could lead to stagnation. And if we fall into the wrong crowd, I mean, especially at university, for example, then what other downsides could that potentially have? So I definitely think that more research needs to be done, because now we have these findings, how do we apply these to the real world? But for starters, before we even look at the applied side, we also need to look at, right, is this a good thing, or is this a bad thing that will damage mental health and damage social cohesion? To be honest, it probably increase social cohesion, but is that a good thing in this context? So there's definitely a lot more research to do. Yeah, but it's definitely a lot of food for thought. So even though that was only one psychology news section, I hope you enjoyed it. So let's move on to the personal update. So moving on to the personal update. So as I already mentioned in the psychology news section, well, life is still a bit difficult. My mental health is still fluctuating, and it's definitely gone downhill, especially since Sunday. So I am able to do some stuff, but basically my average day is sort of a mixture of depression, disassociation, other really bad mental health outcomes. And yeah, I'm able to do some stuff like when I'm doing something, when I've started something, that can sustain me for a little while until I get depressed again. But it's just difficult, and I really am having to prioritize my time, which is why I'm trying to keep this podcast episode relatively short, because if it's shorter, then I know there's a good chance I will be able to get it out. I say hopeful. So I managed to do this a blog post tomorrow after I do the podcasts. After I get that all sorted, I definitely want to do the discussion section of my academic paper, because I've been meaning to do that for ages. I've just not had the energy to do it, and because it's something that I've not started, it seems like a big, massive task, which is not good. when you're struggling with your mental health. But thankfully, I'm going up to the Midlands to see my best friend on Thursday until a Sunday. So, because I won't be alone, we can laugh, we can socialise, and I can do some work there because one of those days my best friend isn't there. So, I'm going to have to do some work there because as much as I get on with their mum and their dog, there's only so much we can talk about. Oh, God, that's actually quite funny to think about. So as always, I always love to know your thoughts and feelings on today's episode. So you can email me, connorwhiteley@connorwhiteley.net. You can always leave a comment down the show notes at connorwhiteley.net/podcast. And you can always tweet on Twitter at sci-fi Wiley or leave a comment on the Facebook post or LinkedIn post. And today's episode has been sponsored by Psychology of Relationships, the social psychology of friendships, romantic relationships, and more. So the reason why this is a brilliant sponsor for today's episode is because this great, really easy to understand book that consistently sells every month answers a lot of really good questions. For example, what are the biological, social, and the cognitive reasons about why we develop friendships? What is the similarity hypothesis? And how do friendships, but also romantic relationships, form that? Because we all know it's sort of just like talking and actually just getting to know them. What are the actual psychological mechanisms in this really important social function? So we deep dive into that topic. Then we also talk about what is the best way to communicate with partners and friends, which I think is a brilliant topic. I know it's very popular. It's a topic that I learned a lot about because we do struggle to communicate our feelings, and communication in relationships is a flat critical. For example, me and my best friend, we had a really deep, really lovely conversation on a Saturday, to be honest, just because we communicated very clearly, and it was really nice because I'd done some misconceptions. They hadn't explained themselves properly, but because we spoke and because we were open and honest, we were able to sort it out, which was really nice then. But then we also talk about what are the theories of sexuality. So why are people straight? Why are people gay? But also we talk about bystanderism, altruism. What is altruism for starters? What is a pro-social behaviour? And most importantly, how do we promote pro-social behaviour? I think in this day and age, we definitely need to focus on that more. So there's a lot of brilliant topics. I flat out love this book. I'm always really happy to recommend it, and readers love it too. So that's Psychology of Relationships, the social psychology of friendships, romantic relationships, and more. Available at all major ebook retailers, and you can order the paperback and the hardback version from Amazon, your local bookstore or local library if you request it. And you can also get the audiobook narrated by artificial intelligence at selected audiobook retailers like Google Play, Spotify, Kobo, Barnes & Noble, and selected library systems like Biblioteca, Overdrive, and Baker & Taylor. So whilst buying books helps support the creation and the editing of the podcast, my time is sponsored by my wonderful patrons. And as always, a massive thank you to my patrons, which your support shows that you like the show and you want it to continue. So if you wanted to become a patron of the show and get access to tons of great rewards, now you can at patreon.com/the Psychology World Podcast. Or if you want to support the podcast on a one-off basis, now you can buymeacoffee.com/Connor Wiley. So now the personal update's done, let's move on to the content part of today's episode. So we're moving on to the content part of today's episode. So we're going to be talking about how to make and maintain friends as adults. This is a critical podcast episode not only to our social function, our self-esteem and our mental health, but just so we feel good, because friendships make us laugh, they make us smile, and they make life so much better. So let's dive into it. Why are friendships important? I know a lot of you wonderful listeners and readers are psychology students and professionals, so I won't spend too much time on this topic. However, friends have a wide range of very important functions for us, because essentially, friendships make us happier because they give us opportunities to laugh, enjoy our lives, and they add so many layers to our social lives that we simply cannot get from being alone. And there are references at the bottom of the page on the blog post if you're interested. Personally, I flat out love having friends, and please note this is coming from a person who has barely any friends, because they make me laugh. I get to learn about things I never normally would, and I get to experience different lifestyles I never could have dreamed of. For instance, I recently experienced something amazing because I went up to the Midlands to see my best friend whilst they were at their parents', and I experienced a completely accepting family that couldn't care less their eldest was a queer with a boyfriend, and they allowed their eldest to do whatever they wanted, as well as they supported their eldest no matter what, and no matter how horrific their mental health was, they still supported them, which to me was just such a violently alien concept, because it's just shocking. And the really shocking thing to me was that my best friend's parents actually researched ways to actively help and support their mental health, which is just such a weird concept for me. And I later shocked my best friend because I was asking them a lot of basic questions about what their life was like growing up. Of course, I know it was really rough because of their mental health. I was just fascinated from the parenting angle. Anyway, friendships help me realize a lot of things about my own life. In addition, friendships are protective factors against mental health difficulties, since if you don't have friendships, then this can increase the chance of you developing hypertension, depression, as well as diabetes. In my experience, if I didn't have my best friend these past few weeks, I highly doubt I would even be around, because they have been a critical part of my mental health support, and it's one of the reasons why I want more friends, so I can have a much wider social support network. Overall, friendships provide us with connections, and it is these social connections that are critical to our overall mental health and well-being. How to make and maintain friends as an adult. You should figure out what matters to you. As an adult, we thankfully get to decide the different sorts of people who get to be around us in our social groups. Now, I'm using the plural form here because I covered a psychology news article a few episodes ago saying how variety is the spice of life in friendships, meaning that you're better off with a mixed friendship group that is made up of people who are similar and different from yourself. Anyway, as an adult, we need to figure out what matters to us, and we can intentionally build a life that incorporates these things and aspects. You could essentially call these our core values or interests. Therefore, it's important that you take the time to think about what matters to you and put yourself in places where similar people might be. For example, some of my core values include being or supporting the LGBT plus community, being kind, active, and being interested in learning in all its forms. This is one of the reasons why I'm going to my university's LGBT plus coffee morning this week, and I'll go to as many society events as possible this academic year, so I'm in the same places as people who share my similar interests. As an adult, this might mean joining different social groups, volunteering, or finding a group that does the same hobby as you. You need to put yourself out there and into places with similar interests. You should draw on the people you have. For a lot of people, shredding and cutting school friends off or friends that you have grown up with is perfectly normal, and it is simply part of growing up. In fact, the day I write this post, I got a Facebook notification because it was the birthday of a very older school friend that I don't talk to anymore. It's a shame we don't talk, but he could have messaged me, I could have messaged him. It's simply part of growing older, and I have so many things wrapped up in past friendships anyway. Therefore, there will be some people from your childhood that are brilliant for you because they help you to grow and you can use them to expand your social network. In fact, these don't have to be anything to do with childhood friends. Even friends you make as adults can be used to expand your social circle. For instance, taking an American university example, you'll be getting a new roommate or dorm mate, and please know, I'm sorry, I have no idea what Americans call the person you share a dorm with. Dorm mate, I think that's what I'm gonna go with. So you could see your dorm mate as a new way to meet future friends, in addition to your roommate becoming a possible friend. Whereas an example from my personal life is me and my best friend are working at this year on my best friend introducing me to lots of people who I might become friends with. Now, I don't have an issue with this whatsoever because I seriously need more friends, and my best friend does have some rather attractive friends. So I'm not opposed into making people more than friends. In other words, use people in your life to make new friends. You have to push yourself out of your comfort zone. So even if you don't have PTSD, anxiety, depression, etc., making new friends is extremely scary. Even before my sexual assault, I was terrified of making friends. That's more just basic autism, but still, I know it is tough. Yet you have to put yourself out there. You need to put yourself outside your comfort zone, and you need to take a step into the unknown if you're ever going to make friends. The main reason why I didn't make friends for my first 3 years of my degree, besides the 2 years of COVID, was because I was too scared to go outside my comfort zone. The only reason I met my best friend is because I stepped outside my comfort zone and went to a particular social group that flat out terrified me at first, more because of child abuse, but it's still scary. Then the only reason why I managed to make another friend was because I was brave and I asked for his Instagram. I'd never done that before, and I was scared and nervous, but I did it, and I haven't looked back. Universities are a great way to push yourself out of your comfort zone in a safe, controlled, and supportive environment. You need to put the work in. Friendships don't happen without effort. Friendships, like any sort of relationship, require you to work at it and put effort in. Thankfully, this so-called effort is fun, enjoyable, and you'll love it. Yet, you still need to reach out, show up, and demonstrate that you have an interest in the friendship. In addition, you need to maintain the friendship by talking to the other person, planning and coming up with fun things to do, or just talk to them. Unfortunately, there will be times when you might have to cut people off because they aren't making an effort. Yet there will be plenty of people who show an interest back, and they are the friendships you want to develop and pursue. This is even more important when we consider that we only have so much time in the day, so we need to choose who we want to spend our time with. Not everyone should be a part of our life, and we all get out what we put into relationships. The only real reason why me and my best friend are friends is because despite them having an awful time for the first 9 months of our friendship because of their housemates, I kept texting, making plans with them, and showing that I wasn't going anywhere. Now, I will mention that the current joke between us is that I was obsessively texting them and pursuing the friendship. In reality, this isn't so much of a joke, but because of how my best friend is with other people, they didn't recognise this as weird or concerning. And I've learned my lesson, I've toned it down with the friend I'm currently working on, and that I do say in air quotes because friendship isn't work, but still. If you have a friendship you want to pursue, then do the maintenance work and invest in a friendship wisely, intentionally, and you'll be reaping the wonderful rewards after a while. Conclusion. So, someone who needs more friends, I have to admit that this is a critical podcast episode because we all need more friends. More high quality friendships, especially. Friendships are there to make us laugh, enjoy life, and stop us from being lonely. Yet friendships are there to support us and protect us from harm, depression, and other mental health difficulties too. Therefore, whether you're going to or returning to university next week, please remember the following. Figure out what matters to you, draw on who you already have, push yourself out of your comfort zone, put in the work to maintain your friendships. Believe me, I know making friends is hard, so hard. Yet it is so worth it, because friends are brilliant and there isn't a better place to make friends than a university. So please, use your time at university to have fun, socialise and make some brilliant friendships that will hopefully be lifelong, full of laughter, and they will support you no matter what. Because true friends support you whether you're having the best day of your life or the darkest day of your life. So I really hope that you enjoyed today's episode and you got something out of it. I know that I did because, as I've already mentioned, because my mental health has been so bad for the past month, I am really looking forward to going back to university, hopefully making some new friends and just trying to expand my social network. Because that is something that I critically need though. And I will be trying these tips, and I will be trying to push myself out of my comfort zone, and I will be trying to do everything that I have put in this episode. So I hope that you found it useful. Speaking of which, if you know someone who would find today's episode useful, then please share it with them. I'm always really grateful when you wonderful people help spread the word about the podcast. And if you want to learn more, please check out Psychology of Relationships, the social psychology of friendships, romantic relationships, and more, available in all the usual places. And you can get the audiobook narrated by artificial intelligence from selected audiobook retailers. And if you wanted to support the podcast on a one-off basis, then now you can at buymeacoffee.com/Con Whiteley. Or if you want to support the podcast on an ongoing basis, now you can at patreon.com/The Psychology World Podcast. So have a great day, everyone, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening today. I hope you found it helpful. Please remember to like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow the podcast on your favourite podcast app. And if you wanted to learn more, then please check out the backlist of the podcast episodes or my books at conwhiteley.net. So have a great day and I'll see you next time.